3 ships. That's all Dionysius of Phocaea brought to the largest naval confrontation the Greek world had ever seen. 3 ships out of 353, facing down an armada of 600. The other commanders handed him control of the entire fleet. He understood something they didn't. A single trireme, a warship with 3 tiers of oars, handled correctly, could kill 200 men in one strike. The question was whether free Greeks would endure enough pain to learn how. To understand his plan, you first need to grasp what the Ionians were up against. The Ionian revolt had raged for 6 years. Now Persia was ready to end it, with a fleet. Here's the problem. Persia was not a seafaring people. Tradition held that the great king himself should never set foot on the open sea. Yet crushing coastal cities and islands required naval dominance. Persia's solution was characteristically imperial, conscript the navies of conquered peoples. The Phoenicians were the crown jewel, the greatest sailors of the ancient world, founders of Carthage, explorers who had circumnavigated Africa. Egypt, conquered by Cambyses a generation earlier, contributed warships. Cilician pirates, absorbed into the empire, brought more. By the time Darius assembled his armada, Herodotus counts 600 ships converging on Ionia. Persia built a world-class navy without a single homegrown sailor. The Phoenician coast, Tyre, Sidon, Byblos, supplied hundreds of warships, the backbone of the armada. Egyptian galleys sailed north from the Nile Delta. Cilician squadrons joined from the southern coast of Anatolia, all converging on the waters of Miletus where the Ionians waited. The Ionian response, 353 ships. Chios alone sent 100. Miletus contributed 80, and Phocaea, the city that would supply the fleet's commander, sent 3. 600 against 353, a nearly 2-to-1 Persian advantage. The Phoenician contingent alone likely outnumbered most of the Ionian fleet combined. On the Ionian side, contributions ranged wildly. Chios sent 100 ships, making it the dominant partner. Phocaea's 3 ships sat at the bottom of the roster, yet Phocaea's commander will be chosen to lead them all. To understand that choice, you need to understand the machine these men would fight in. The Trireme, 120 feet long, built from timber and powered by muscle, 3 tiers of oars stacked vertically, Stranites on top, Zygians in the middle, Salamians at the bottom, 170 rowers in total, packed so tight that all blades nearly touched on the backstroke. Above them, 30 to 40 additional crew, marines for close combat, a pilot navigating by landmarks, lookouts scanning for threats. At the prow, a bronze ram. Not a weapon bolted on as an afterthought, but a structural extension of the keel itself, sheathed in metal, designed to punch clean through an enemy hull at ramming speed. One last critical detail. Before battle, the crew removed the mast and left it on shore. No sail, no fallback. This was a vessel that entered combat powered entirely by human muscle. The ship itself was the weapon. For centuries, naval combat looked like a land battle fought on water. Ships pulled alongside each other, crews lashed the hulls together, dropped their oars, and soldiers fought hand-to-hand on a floating wooden platform. 1 archer, 1 kill per shot. Ramming warfare inverted this entirely. The ship itself became the weapon. Instead of delivering soldiers to fight, the trireme delivered its bronze prow to the enemy's hull. And when it struck, the entire crew of the target vessel, all 200 men, went into the sea. 1 archer kills 1 man, 1 ram strike kills 200. Knowing the ship is one thing, using it as a weapon is another. The maneuver that could neutralize Persia's numerical advantage had a name, the diekplous, diekplous. The word breaks down. Dia means through, ek means out, plus means ship movement through water, rowing through and out. Now here's how it worked. An attacking trireme identifies a gap in the enemy line. The rowers accelerate to full speed, driving straight through that gap. The ship clears the enemy formation and emerges on the far side. The pilot executes a sharp turn, and the trireme drives its bronze ram into the exposed flank or stern of an enemy vessel, devastating when it works, but the margin for error was razor thin. During a pass through the gap, both flanks of the attacking ship were completely exposed. Any hesitation, any break in the rower's rhythm, and the attacker became the victim. This maneuver demanded 170 men rowing in perfect synchronization, a pilot making split-second corrections, and lookouts reading chaos in real time. The diekplous was the answer, but answers only work if people are willing to pay the price. Dionysius of Phocaea stood before the Council of Ionian commanders, representatives from a dozen independent city-states, each commanding their own contingent by democratic authority. He brought 3 ships, Chios brought 100, Miletus brought 80, and yet Dionysius made the case that won their vote: submit to unified command, endure a brief period of intense training, and secure lasting freedom. They agreed. What followed was 7 days of relentless drilling, dawn to dusk at sea. No midday shore leave, a brutal departure from standard practice, since trireme crews expected to beach their ships and rest ashore during the hottest hours. Dionysius drilled formation sailing, practiced the diekplous turn, and forced crews to maintain battle-ready discipline hour after hour under the Mediterranean sun. Combat readiness climbed, but morale collapsed. By the 5th day, the Ionian crews began refusing orders. They pitched tents on the island of Lade and sat in the shade rather than row. Meanwhile, Darius's agents exploited the fracture. Former tyrants of the Ionian cities sent messages to their countrymen promising clemency for those who defected and destruction for those who resisted. The twin pressures, physical exhaustion from within, psychological warfare from without, cracked the alliance open. The fleet that had freely chosen its commander now refused to follow him. And there's the tragedy. Dionysius had the tactic. He had the authority. What he couldn't command was time. The diekplous was sound, the only realistic way to defeat a fleet nearly twice your size. Dionysius was right about what victory required. This was not a failure of strategy. It was a failure of political endurance. A coalition of free city-states, each with its own interests and its own tolerance for suffering, could not sustain the discipline that a single autocratic commander demanded. This tension between tactical excellence and coalition politics would haunt Greek warfare for centuries. Sparta and Athens tore each other apart in the Peloponnesian War, partly because allied city-states chafed under Athenian naval command. Alexander the Great held his coalition together through sheer charisma and an unbroken record of victories, but the moment he died, it shattered, and Persia's strategy, building naval power by absorbing subject peoples, would be mirrored centuries later when Rome, another land power, constructed its navy by copying and conscripting Greek fleets during the Punic Wars. The right tactic and the right commander mean nothing if the coalition can't hold together long enough to use them.